Hey, Ben, when you're ready.
Peter in yet or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
Good evening and welcome to the regular scheduled board meeting for the town of Tustin for February the 8th, 2022. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. We've only got one announcement under 1.3. The Sullivan County Mobile DMV will be coming on February 22nd. That'll be between 10:30 and 3:30. Please call the Sullivan County DMV or go online to schedule an appointment. So you will need an appointment with them. 1.4, the board is having a presentation from Peter Manning, who is a consultant for the town of Tustin. The presentation is to the town board regarding the formation of our Conservation Advisory Council and the draft local law regarding zoning law and subdivision law. The purpose is to give advice to and answer questions from the board. There will be no public participation at this time. After the eventual introduction of a local law by the board, in the future, comments will be taken at scheduled public hearings. I want to give Peter his sharing, and Peter, you are up.
All righty. How we looking on the other end there?
Yeah,
No, it's working. I have to.
Crystal's working on it.
Okay, it says I'm sharing on this end.
You're good. You're good, Peter.
Okay, everyone see it on the screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So following up on the introduction, I'm going to give some more information about the Conservation Advisory Council. And as Ben basically said, action on this will occur at a later point. This is informational. And I also want to say that I see you have a lot of things on the agenda. So I'll probably go a little quick, but if anyone has a question along the way or afterward, please feel free to ask. And there is some information, including this slide program, given to Crystal for a printout. And I also provided the state statute. It's not too long. I'll be talking about that as well. So kind of echoing on what Ben said, the purpose here and what I said is for information for considering the reformation of a Conservation Advisory Council, which is to say you had one and they did some great work, but it sort of waned off. And there are many documents and recommendations that point to us bringing it back and the benefits thereof. And its role in the town's future, and want to talk about basically these bullets here. Why are we doing this in the first place? Why is this so important? And there are many reasons. I'll cover some. As I alluded to, you had a CAC. We want to look a little bit at what they did and some current activities or some future activities and the kinds of things that CACs do. It's quite a range, and just to say, we're kind of starting out here. So when we look at some of these things, they may occur sometime down the road. I want to have a look at some of the features of the state statute. Like many state statutes, there are things you really need to do, you shall do, and then there's some flexibility. So have a peek at that, and when it gets to a later point, we'll look at adopting a local law. And then on that note, what does it take to reactivate a Conservation Advisory Council? Let me see what I can do here. That's even better. All right, next slide. New York State has a great number of resources, and I got to X a button out here. There we go. including this open space planning guide. This put out by DEC and New York State Department of State. And essentially, these little pop-ups are blocking my slides. All right. Essentially, CACs are advisory. This is a very important point. They don't have discretionary power like a planning board, for example. They advise the municipality on natural resource issues, and they're authorized to prepare an open space inventory and map. I want to cover that a bit for adoption by the local governing body. That, of course, here is a town board. As I mentioned, there's a statute in the second bullet. The place where that statute is listed out. Third bullet, and this is an important one because it covers typically what a CAC does. You're gathering information. Again, that inventory and map shows up. I'll talk about that some more. And very importantly, CACs typically advise the planning board as development occurs. The planning board, most of your rural planning boards are volunteered or low paid, and there's a lot to do. And a whole kind of branch of reviewing a project has to do with environmental resources and how they play into the design of a subdivision, for example. So many communities, and now dropping down to the fourth bullet, have utilized this authority granted to you in the state statutes. One source, actually, it was the Open Space Planning Guide, says there's more than 300 of these groups in New York State. And according to another resource, which I'll show later, there's 82 of them in Region 3, which is shown on the lower right of your screen of DEC. So again, it's quite a used tool. You created your Conservation Advisory Council in 2008. And as I said, they did some great work. And I want to get to that in a moment. Just a little more on the importance. So the town's environmental resources are of local, regional, and yes, global significance. And that may come as a surprise, but when you pan out a little bit, we'll say, and you take it to the level of the state, and then we talk about the New York State Open Space Plan. It's issued every handful of years. And it identifies priority projects, but it also identifies areas of special significance in the different regions in New York State. And those regions correspond with the DEC regions, and the DEC is the author of the plan with local input as well. And, to kind of use some of the language you might find in this plan, or you will find, we're talking about things like forest blocks, connectivity, adequate habitat for certain species that need greater expanses of land, pristine marshes and wetlands where certain kinds of species may be, and indeed Tustin and surrounding communities have habitat and species of significant import, not only in the water, but, insects and so forth. So when the state looks at this area, they realize that there's quite a bit of continuity in terms of undisturbed open space. And during this project, actually during the comp plan project, I spoke with DC, and basically they said, yeah, that's right. I mean, we're willing to do anything to help out Tustin in this regard. So it's no surprise that the comp plan we just finished has this recommendation to reactivate the CAC. You find it in the previous comp plan, and you find it in the document that your CAC did, and I'll talk about that in a moment, and that is the 2011 Natural Resources and Open Space Inventory. And recently, we're in this grant right now, the Upper Delaware Council has awarded the town a grant to implement this recommendation, again, to reactivate the CAC. Now, here's that slide on the Natural Resources and Open Space Inventory. And it essentially corresponds with a couple of the shawls that you'll find in the statute. If you create a conservation advisory council, you need to create an inventory and map, et cetera. You can read it here on the slide, or if you can, I'll read it. But basically, your community has conducted this exercise. Is it 100% complete and valid today? I don't think it is. I think there's some updating, but nonetheless, a lot of work was tackled in furtherance of meeting this requirement of the statute. And this document is very well done. We don't have the electronic maps, but there's some great maps in there, and it really informed our comprehensive planning process. And it shows the proactivity of the community, which consisted of some dedicated individuals that were on this council. And while we're on that subject, this is no small undertaking in that sense. The people that would serve on a CAC really need to have an interest and an enthusiasm and a dedication to serve on the CAC. So, you know, it's something to think about. Again, this is just informational. Ideally, you know, we do recreate this, but it's going to depend on the dedicated people that serve. So the bottom box is essentially a statement of what the purpose of that inventory was. And as I said, it really does a good job. It gets a lot into cultural and natural resources more than open space. So it's a very well done document, and it kind of gives us a boost in what we're looking at. So just to touch a little bit on some of the economic benefits of open space, often those aren't described or known about. And I just want to mention a few things. And we talked about this in the comp plan. The box on the right is probably one of the best statements about not only how open space contributes to the quality of life in your community, but how all these things come together, the culture, the history, you know, economic development, transportation. But we really spent a lot on the importance of the open space. And as we were developing the plan, we talked a lot about the possibility of the Boy Scout lands, you know, being taken over by another entity or sold, or we didn't really know exactly what would happen. And now, of course, there's more information. I attended a recent planning board meeting, and the pullout map on the left shows just how significant those holdings are in the town of Tustin. And you can see where your town is following those red lines, and how you really don't have a lot or any as shown on the map, but I'm sure there's some places, but by and large, you don't have a lot of publicly accessible lands. You have access to the water in a few spots, which is great. And there could be more opportunity on public lands. I live to your north, even above some of those large holdings in the Catskill Forest Preserve. And I can tell you, and you experience this as well, the pandemic has really sent people looking for outdoor recreation. And even without the pandemic, that was increasing. So Tustin's at a critical point now, and the voice of your community can be, of course, going to be the town board and others, but this Conservation Advisory Council can really work going forward with what looks like will be the DEC on, for example, determining uses. I don't want to say determining, probably the better word is discussing, but point being, you're at a critical point here in terms of receiving, hopefully, it looks like a large amount of open space, which really is central to this conversation. The map on the left shows that swath of, you know, 1, 2, or 3 parcels, whatever it is, just huge parcels running through the center of your town, as shown on the previous map, and containing, again, significant habitats, open space, forests, lakes, etc. Just really fortunate the town is to have that. So again, just to touch on a little more of the activities. I think I passed the slide, but once you do your inventory and your map, you're better positioned to conduct an open or create an open space plan. That recommendation comes up in at least 2 of the documents I mentioned. Any planning process is going to have an inventory of different characteristics of your community, including a community survey. And your comp plan and your previous comp plan has always been very strong on the outdoor amenities and the open space, the aesthetic value. So this is a logical continuation, an open space plan that is. That's one of those activities that'll come down the road, hopefully. It's not something that you just jump into and do, but I just want to talk a little about it. In the graphic that shows a computer screen, this is a graphic that I used in statewide presentations. It may still be in there. It's from the town of Penfield. And it's kind of the next step that you would take once you have an inventory. You would apply, and I have some sample criteria, right? You would apply criteria to the lands in your town and say, and determine rankings for the value of parcels. And very importantly, in this town, there's direct landowner involvement, right? So nobody wants to be targeted for preservation. I shouldn't say nobody, but without having a conversation with the municipality. And you probably can't read it on the screen, but there's a little part of this database, and this one says owner not interested at this time. So that becomes weighed in. And as you develop, and you don't have to do this, but you begin to see which parcels are valuable, how they could be connected, why they're valuable, and then you get into some of the tools that could protect them. So just a little about open space planning and what you can look for with your CAC down the road. Now, again, I mentioned advising the planning board. You have in place, and this is the upper graphic on the right, you have in place conservation subdivision tools, which is to say, instead of a full parcel being developed to the maximum size lot available, you have options in your community to be able to cluster the development, and there are options. It's not mandated. There's some information required, but there's some options, and I'd have to look at the particulars in the zoning again, but you have this tool in place. So the design on the right, for example, to use it as a basic sample, that is something that could be influenced by the Conservation Advisory Council. In this example, we're talking about agriculture, forests, and a stream corridor. Based on the inventory in the map and the advisory role of the CAC, they would advise the planning board, okay, look, if this design, and the developer for that matter, if this design can be oriented to save this habitat, and we're trying to build a trail through here. So, and by the way, if you don't have to cross a stream twice, as in the left picture, you're going to be able to save money. And those kinds of conversations. That's what a CAC does. It does the homework for the planning board in this example, and frankly, for the municipality. How is it that you're going to grow over time? Over here, back to this town map, there's a lot of smaller parcels, but again, there's many, many large ones. As those parcels develop, might they be connected to these future larger land holdings that may be held by the state and become wildfires, for example? Will there be opportunities for trails and et cetera? So that's a little about the nuts and bolts of a CAC. And I just like to, what I did here was summarize some of the features of the statute rather. And again, conducts research into the lands of the municipality. You're coordinating the activities of unofficial bodies. In Tustin, that might be the environmental committee. I hope I got that name right. I forgot, or maybe I didn't. But they do a lot of great things with recycling and saving energy. So there may be opportunity for partnerships. And again, this official municipal bodies, we're talking about the planning board and we're talking about the town board primarily. You can prepare, materials, and I've looked at some of these CAC websites in other counties in upstate New York, and they've really generated some neat things about different species and a whole host of things, water resources. And you'll find that there are resources available for communities to conduct these kinds of activities. And then there are some requirements about keeping records, filing a report. And again, this is just a snapshot of the statute. And then you often find this kind of a phrase in a state statute. If there are other things that the municipality, namely the town board, assigns to the CAC that are specific and relevant and advantageous to the town, then those activities might be included as well. Now on to membership, that question came up. Statute says between 3 and 9, which is a handy span to accommodate different municipalities. And then this is interesting now in the second bullet, we talked about youth involvement in the comp plan. Town board may appoint up to 2 members to the council who are between the ages of 16 and 21. That's kind of a neat clause. And then the town board designates the chairman, just some features here. Now I want to highlight, this is very interesting to this statute. And I didn't paraphrase, I just put the quotes on it. But I don't have to go through all this. I'll let you read it and get on with your meeting. But this is pretty neat stuff. I mean, essentially, it involves the Department of Environmental Conservation, if you would like to. It's quite a list of things here that they can become involved in. Now, that would apply to any municipality. But in Tustin, as we move to the future, if the DEC gets that large holding and manages it in the center of your town, then these kinds of things are going to become very important. And by the sound of this statute, the DEC hopefully has some of these resources to assist you in that regard. So I think you are a unique situation as we move forward. So very interesting to me and hopefully to you in the statute. So the next steps here are, again, this is informational. The town should be looking at potential candidates. They should be looking at the number of people they would like to have on this council. And when we get to the point, and we had this grant runs through the mid part of this year, hopefully we can get to the point where you would adopt a local law pursuant to statute and basically create or recreate your council. And a very important point, I mentioned you formed one. So the first exercise was to look for the information about your CAC. And it seems to me that it was created by a resolution, because if it was created by a local law, there would be a record of it. And I've talked to one person involved, and it looks like it was created by a resolution. So I don't know if that is still available, but anyway, I'm going to recommend that if and when we get to that point, you adopt the CAC by a local law, if only because we'll have a record of it officially by New York State Department of State. So basically, this last section of bullets is about how I can, or will rather, assist the town as you see fit. And I'll position the town, the CAC, to get up and running and interested and make connections with not only some of the parties listed here, but maybe some other ones that can help you, get this going again and become a crucial factor in the future of the town and its character and how it develops. And lastly, I thought there would be more to this. There's simple language that would be inserted into your zoning law to ensure that this advisory body assists the planning board under circumstances that you define, right? Is it a major subdivision and not a minor? Are there other things that you would like the CAC to help with? So these are parts of the discussions going forward. I put on the screen here a few resources. The top one is the New York State Association of Conservation Commissions. They are the ones that they not only list all the ones that they know of in New York State, but they mention how there are 82 in this region. And you can join this commission. They have an annual conference. It's like $75 a year or something. And then, as I covered, DEC in particular, Region 3, and maybe central office is going to be resources. Westchester County puts out a great guide. I couldn't link it. It would have taken up the whole page. You can seek that out. I used it in my research. And of course, your two key, and there may be other county departments that have already been invaluable in the work that I've done with Tustin over the last several years. So that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of a CAC, and I look forward to working with the town. And any questions or ideas, I'm happy to discuss.
Red, questions for Peter?
Questions about the zoning law.
Yeah, we're gonna go into that next. Yeah, he's gonna bring that up. I don't think any questions at this point on that, Peter.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to address the board, as always, and I'll move to the zoning. Okay, does everyone see a new graphic?
Hold on.
Crystal, do you see a different program on there now?
Good. Yep, we're good to go.
All right. These graphics are going to answer some of the questions, but I wanted to cue them up before I started talking. I can also bring up the draft law if need be. There are some questions on the overlay section. I pulled that section out and made some highlights, so I may switch my sharing. Now, you can look at this graphic, but I just want to describe the law and a little bit on its history. Excuse me, I started with the town, I believe in 2016, and I got involved because the National Natural Lands Trust, with funding from the William Penn Foundation for the purposes of protecting the water quality in the Upper Delaware watershed, the Natural Lands Trust did an audit of your zoning and subdivision regulations and made about 2 or so pages of recommendations to be able to improve those regulations, those tools, to be able to improve water quality, again, in that greater Upper Delaware River watershed. So that's when I got involved. We had some discussions, and there were some of the recommendations that the town did not want to undertake either at that time or ever, but the majority of them we began working on. So what you'll see in this current zoning law are several of those amended zoning regulations that relate to water quality. So you may say, well, geez, that was back in 2016. Well, along the way, as often happens, a number of things came into play. Most notably in Tustin, there were needs, and the town board directed this zoning review committee that I worked with to help the town meet these needs. Namely, we tackled a camping law and got those zoning amendments done. We adopted a solar law, and that's in your zoning now. We also looked at short-term rentals that was put on hold. So you get the idea. Now, you'll see not only several environmental related regulations, but you'll see other things that we fixed, so to speak, or changed or amended in your zoning law, including adjustments to the schedule of uses, which is where things are allowed, where they're not, and what requirements they may have, like a special use permit, for instance. So it's quite an extensive local law that we'll say has accumulated, and it's now ready for review. And what I'd like to do is address some of the comments from the town board I received. And basically there was, I believe, one member had a handful of comments, and then if there are others, we can treat them here tonight. We can do a workshop depending on, you know, how much the conversation would entail. But essentially, well, let's talk about what's on the screen first. Now I got to look at my notes. Where is that stuff? Let's see. Yes. Okay, I'd like to know the properties being taken from the general residential and added to the roadside / downtown business and the reasons for the move. In the zoning amendment, there are changes of zoning classifications for several parcels. And when I came to work with the town, some of those conversations were already happening. And that brings us to the graphic on the screen, which is kind of a quick fix that you'll find in the end of your zoning law. And it's the expansion of the downtown business district. So the relevancy of this is that this process, to answer this question of, you know, what's the origin, what are the specifics, and I'll get to some of those, of these parcel changes. The first point is that this process was already underway. And according to Kathy Michelle, former town clerk at the time, and this is 2012, 2011, this change that you'll find drawn in here at the end of your zoning law was apparently adopted. However, with the exception of this map, there was not another zoning map created. Now, the county is kind of the keeper of your zoning map, and they have very sophisticated GIS equipment, data, and skills. So if you're with me, in this zoning amendment, these parcels highlighted here in this graphic are also in the zoning amendment. So it is a little bit redundant. I wanted you to know that, and it helped me unravel some of the things that happened before I came. Now, let me go here. This is where I want to start this next part. So basically on your screen is, and now we're talking county GIS generated map. On the left is existing, on the right is proposed, and I'm focused on your downtown area. As you can see on the right, you don't know exactly, and I'll show you in a moment, there's a further expansion in addition to what I just showed for your downtown business district. So here is part of the answer to the question. Now we zoom in on the proposed map and we mark those parcels that are being added. Again, some of these were apparently already adopted. And I didn't have a chance to research that local law. I don't think it really matters in the long run anyway, because now we're on track. So you have those parcels and now additional parcels. All the ones marked with an asterisk are part of your current local law. To be changed from what they were now to downtown business. And I believe that's R1. No, I'm sorry, I don't have the code here of what this district is. Anyone who knows could probably just say it right away. I'm sorry, I don't know. But anyway,
GR, Peter.
General
thank
residential.
you. There are your new parcels. Now let's go to the other part where you get several new parcels. On the left is existing, on the right is proposed, and again, with the asterisks are shown. Now, this one up here at the top in the pink is the floater. When you look at the draft local law, you'll see a batch of parcels that I just showed. You'll see another batch, which is most of these down here in the lower pink part on the right. And then you'll see one parcel. That's the one up on the top. Now, the other question comes in terms of what was more the why this was done. So as I mentioned before I came, the process had begun. And the reasons behind that and this are basically you were looking to not only expand, allow for expansion, I should say, your commercial and downtown district, but you also wanted to keep that expansion somewhat compact. And that, of course, does a couple of things. You'll find that in the 2007 comp plan. You'll find it again in the recent one. And those things include protection of the open space that is highly valued in other parts of your town, and the clustering and the concentration of development in your downtown historic walkable, and we're working more on walkable, hamlet of Narrowsburg. So the people who were involved were following the 2000 comp plan, and they were following those principles basically that I just mentioned. And again, to emphasize the protection of open space, the preservation of community character, those scored so high in that 2000 comp plan when these discussions started and continued. And by the way, this map of these changes predates the 2021 comp plan, which again kind of says many of the same things. And we do talk about this zoning change in your comp plan. So, you know, overall, you're looking for growth, but you want it to be compact and you want to protect the rest of your community. That answers those questions, at least to the extent that I just did. If there's further ones, we can talk about that. Now I'd like to talk about, as a council member did, there's a stream corridor overlay district being proposed, and you'll see it here on this graphic. And essentially it's a buffer around all the, I forgot the classes of the streams, not the very minor ones, but the, I think it's class 1 and class 2 streams, but essentially it's a tool to bring in new regulations on top of, that's why it's called an overlay district, your underlying district. And the council member mentioned the word supersede. For the most part, with one exception, these regulations do, as I say, they overlay the underlying ones. They apply in addition. Now, when there's a question, there's a clause in the section that we're talking about. There is one section where the zoning overlay would actually supersede provisions of the existing underlying zoning. Now we get into this other question. While much of the district appears to be in marshy areas that probably cannot be developed, do we know how many properties with existing structures that it will impact? And the simple answer to that is we do not. To get that answer would require a GIS analysis. And I'm sure the county, I shouldn't be sure, but I would say they would be able to conduct that. Alternatively, we can have other related discussions, and I'll attempt a second or third screen share here. So let's see. One day I'll get even faster. It seems like an attorney when you got to hit the right buttons. All right. There it goes. Okay, a base point for this conversation about structures that fall within this buffer zone of the streams, this overlay district, there's a section on allowable activities, and it's repair and maintenance of existing structures. There is also a relief valve, as we call it, or a variance procedure to go to the zoning board of appeals if the party feels harmed by the stricture of the zoning regulations. That's not to say we can't have conversations. That's our job here. That's your job. You're in charge of the town to further adjust some of this language to allow for what might be envisioned or to make things more suitable for the town. So you have there under allowable activities, repair and maintenance of existing structures. Then we go to prohibited activities, again, related to structures. The draft regulation says no new principal structure may be located within the stream corridor overlay district, nor may any existing structure be expanded within this district. Now, again, if that circumstance or circumstances come up, there's always the ZBA option. But again, you may want to change this language to make it more accommodating to something that you envision. Now, the second part of this prohibited activity, no accessory structure 200 square feet or larger shall be located within 50 feet of an identified watercourse in the district. Accessory structures not exceeding 350 square feet are allowable between 50 and 100 feet from the identified watercourse in the overlay district. Now, again, I looked at your agenda packet. It's 69 pages. So we can start to get into this, but if you want to kick it back to a workshop meeting, Ben, of course, you'll make those kinds of calls. So these are the questions I got, and these are the answers and the points for discussion that I've identified. And as always, I'm ready to work with the town to make this work, whatever it takes. And that might include, a significant amendment.
Does the board have any questions for Peter right now?
I think I do.
Peter, are
Peter,
you ready for questions yet?
I am.
I'm just looking quickly on page 14. Oh, I don't know if your pages are the same. It's right before forest management. And it says see diagram at the front yard. Is this the definitions? Does this represent the definition that we worked on in the committee meeting the other day?
Okay, I'm on page 14. Yes. So quite recently, I'll say around the holidays, we were all set to bring this draft local law to the town board, but your code enforcement officer and your attorney, the three of us had some separate conversations about a couple of very important points. And as you know, Jane and others on the committee, those included the definition of a front yard and to allow for certain accessory structures to ease up a little bit to accommodate more situations. And so, yes, that is part of it.
Oh, good. That'll make Jim happy.
In fact, that's the last thing we did before we sent it back to the town board.
Great, great. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That's all I know.
Does the board want time to digest this more? Invite Peter to the workshop? And then if we can then have our introduction of it at the following board meeting? If at the end of the workshop we're prepared,
I think so.
that sound like a reasonable time frame.
When will, then, just review the process then again?
We would have Peter come back to the work session,
Right,
which would be the first Tuesday of next month.
right.
If the board is happy with it, and we don't make any significant changes or changes that can be put before the attorney, we could then have a reading and an introduction of the local law at the next meeting.
Which would be the following week.
Right. And then we could schedule the public hearings and everything else that's required.
Okay,
So we'll start with at least an invite to Peter to come to the work session.
okay. All right. So that sort of means if things go on schedule, it won't be law until April?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Peter, does that work?
Absolutely, that's March 1.
I think so, actually.
Is it March
Let
1st?
me- Whichever that first Tuesday is.
Yeah,
Let's
it's-
see here.
We'll get it. And
Yeah.
just to mention, the attorney did review this to this point. However, if we make changes, of course, it'll get reviewed again. And yes, he's gonna check it over, I assume. And also, just to mention, we've kind of paved the way with the UDC. There were earlier carnations of this law that went over there, so other things are in good shape. So I'll look to have a further discussion at your workshop.
Okay, and if I've got any questions from the board beforehand that can be researched, I will forward them to you.
Absolutely.
I'm good with Peter? Peter, thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome
Peter.
and thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
I'd just like to say to the public that Peter has been invaluable in helping us through all of this. He really has. And I give him a lot of credit because he wanted to know about Tustin before he started working with us and asked me to give him a tour. He stayed in the town, I think 7 hours. I showed him around for hours. And then he hiked the trail down by the 10 mile. He really is a fine consultant. I just had to plug him.
You didn't hike with him?
No, I left him 5 hours with him and then I said, you're on your own. Oh,
Okay, moving forward,
Thank you, Jane.
I have one correspondence from Star. It's an email. I am forwarding some information on how the city of Scarsdale, New York found a way to avoid the negative effects of the 5G startup, protecting their residents' mobile phone and other devices by passing local legislation. With the Tustin Town Council look into passing similar legislation to secure such protection for our town residents. Also, I would like to know if the town council will be discussing the issues I raised in my February 1st email at tomorrow's February 8th monthly meeting. There's conflicting information that needs to be clarified regarding what meetings will be available via Zoom. As stated by the town supervisor, the council adopted a streaming policy that states in part regular and special meetings of the town board will be in person and via Zoom. Town of Tustin legal notice that appeared on page 25 of the 127 through 22 River Reporter newspaper lists the first Tuesday of the month workshop meetings as a town board special meeting workshop with no Zoom access. This appears to be a contradiction in words and policy. If not tomorrow, please let me know in what public forum will my email correspondence of 2/1 be addressed by the council. Thank you, Star. And to address it quickly, there is some confusion with the words that the board was using the town board special meeting workshop. A workshop and a special meeting are two different meetings, and the use of all of the words together has created that confusion. The website has been updated to use just the words workshop for the regular scheduled workshop meeting on the first Tuesday of each month, such as we just mentioned with Peter. The word special meeting has been removed. As a note, types of meetings are defined in Article 62 of the town law. Special meetings are defined as those that are called by the supervisor after giving at least 2 days written notice, including meetings of less advanced notice as long as all council members attend, or a written request for a special board meeting is submitted to the supervisor by at least 2 board members. Typically, special meetings are not scheduled meetings. Work sessions, although not addressed in Article 62 of the town law, are public meetings requiring notice and where the board generally has no intention of voting on any matter or taking any action. So we've taken the time to clarify what the two are between the workshop, work session, and the special meeting. There's also been questions on when Zoom will end. This live stream policy was adopted so that the town board meetings would continue past the pandemic. I believe I answered Star in an email on that, the pandemic created this, but is not the need of the pandemic to continue it. The idea of the town board was to continue it after the pandemic. Regarding the protection of the mobile phones and other devices from 5G by local legislation, the Star, the law that you provided as an example was for the placement of telecommunications equipment in proximity to specific areas. It was not regarding protection of non-5G devices. If the board's inclined to do so, they can research it. However, as you'll see on tonight's agenda, there is some stuff that the board needs to pass regarding 5G updates. Does the board have any more comment on that? Or is that, does the board feel it's clear enough?
I think it's fine.
Thank you. Payment of bills.
Didn't seem to be any problems.
General expended $325,123.52. Highway expended $329,978.11. Water, $13,060.41. Sewer, $13,287.23. The lighting district, $447.79. The escrow accounts, $1,200.75. For a total of $683,115.81. Some of our larger expenditures for the truck with the highway department,
Two,
two trucks. And also we paid the rents and the contracts that were due for under the general.
right, so that's why it looks so high.
And they were reviewed by yourself and Greg?
Greg.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or notes?
I move that we accept the bills.
I have a motion to accept the bills as presented. A second?
Second.
I have a second by Kevin to make Greg. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Division reports for the highway, the water and sewer, and the building department and the assessor are posted online. Due to the length of the meeting at this point, I am going to move to Sue with the Upper Delaware Council.
Where do you want me to be?
Probably closer to here if you
Yeah.
could. That way they can be seen on the screen and you got a microphone right there.
Okay, great. So can people hear me
Oh, you're good.
inside, outside, everywhere? Okay. Well, this has been a weird month because I couldn't actually attend the monthly meeting. Evan attended, Evan Padua, because I had an ice storm work, sleeping over at the lodge. At any rate, I'm going to patch together from Worm Committee, which Evan attends, Project Review, which I attend, and just keeping it short. So we held our meeting via Zoom, which is what we're doing. Our committee meetings are in person or Zoom, and our big meetings are Zoom. There was a fiscal planning workshop, and this was based on a analysis that was done of our finances. And this is internal to UDC, but it is going to involve towns. Ultimately, it will involve towns because as it's currently structured, the UDC would literally shrink over the next 8 years to an organization that is not an organization anymore. It gave us complete dollars and cents places to go. And my sense of it is, well, it's just stuff that we have to deal with. And I couldn't attend that meeting because of work. So catching up, just to know that it'll be probably to you guys, it'll be a presentation similar to what the Scenic Byway guy did, which is enumerating the values of the UDC to you, and perhaps followed by a pitch for money. We don't know. But that's jumping ahead, but that's basically where it would involve towns. Bill Rudge, our New York DEC representative, retired due to health issues, which is to me a very personal loss because he was a really wonderful, responsive guy. If you asked him to fix the sign of the DEC access, it was done in 2 weeks. If you asked him to pave the parking lot at Skinner's Falls, boom, it was paved. You asked him to fix the Mon-Gap access, he was down there at Mon-Gap, it's fixed. So we'll miss him tremendously and hope he gets better. from project review, the art shop down on the flats was a project that came to us because it's within the river corridor. And our consensus, it passed substantial conformance review because it did not have a negative impact on river quality or any significant changes in the landscape. When a project in the corridor is in an existing building footprint, it very rarely does the UDC get involved unless it involved, you know, a big change of water use. It was an out of scale project, you know what I mean? If you build a new 12-story hotel, that's a different story than an existing structure. So they passed that, we have passed that along to the Park Service as a fine, you know, it's okay with us. So we didn't have any issues with that. The Worm Committee, the 10 Mile River subdividing of Boy Scouts of America property, there was a draft letter to the Tustin Planning Board, and they added a sentence saying to recognize the value of the river access area as a continued public recreational asset, which I think is very important. I don't know what the full letter said. It went to Planning Board. I assume you would be copied in on that. I mean, that you would all be copied in. If
Yes.
not, you can distribute it. So this topic will continue at the project review meeting hours on February 22nd and the planning board meeting, yours, on the same day. One's at 6:30 and one's at 7:30. The UDC is sending letters to NPS, the New York DEC, and the PA Fish and Boat Commission in support of the concept of litter bag stations at public accesses, which I think is a very worthy thing to consider. If you are involved in picking up trash, you're just really amazed at how much trash there is. I mean, I can pick up 15 gallons of trash just between my house and Star's house, you know, on a regular basis. So that's in its early stages, but having a station at a public access where folks would be given the material to pick up trash is the idea, the concept. So that's the Worm Committee, and litter sweep is also under the Worm Committee, and that's on your agenda for tonight, apparently. And was very successful last year. It happened in conjunction with when Sullivan County allows us to take everything we pick up to the landfill free and litter pluck. And those things have been a very long-standing projects under the beautification group. Am I right?
That's right.
Yeah. So
They work in conjunction with the county.
that's right. And we essentially work in conjunction with both.
Yes.
Yeah. We're covering no public areas, so it's like public access areas, especially focus. So volunteers are welcome. Evan Padua, Shereen Padua, and Wanda Gangle would be contact people, as well as just going over to UDC, speaking to Ashley and saying, put me down for a day. It's probably go over a week's time around Earth Day. And that's all you would have to do. And then they have all the kits and the vests and everything else. If you're a business and you wanted to sponsor this kind of effort, that would be most welcome because we don't have any funds for it this year. New York State is talking about changing zoning to allow increased density, to encourage affordable housing. The way this was presented to us, it would completely come into conflict with home rule, with our zoning. And I think if there's one of you contacts the Association of Towns, that's an Association of Towns thing, because if the state is going to tell us essentially how to write zoning and what our density should be, that never happened to my knowledge, and it's against the state constitution, and it needs to. So we track it. I mean, all we can do is track it, and someone will contact Senator Martucci and find out what's up, as you know, through the political channels that we have. The maps. Corridor maps, we're working on having physical corridor maps of the river corridor translated from GIS into an actual physical form that you could see on the wall of planning departments. Some planning departments are not particularly computer savvy. They just, you know, you start talking about GIS layers and it's like me. I don't know what you're talking about. But, and so anyway, that's a project and it would be lovely. Sullivan County wasn't particularly cooperative, but I don't think Kerry was talking to the right people. And there is the mapping has changed so much since the previous Conservation Council. You can now go online, and if you're fairly good at this stuff, you can take any tax parcel and you can put overlays, and it will tell you the soil, it will tell you the water, it will tell you the zoning, it will tell you everything you ever wanted to know about that parcel. And so you're nodding your head, Crystal. Possibly she knows how to do this.
Very interesting.
But it is, and it's a huge change. And that was a long project. It was NPS, Shippensburg University. They have made great progress. It's probably still being refined. But if anybody is interested in mapping and knowing exactly where your parcels are, that's there right now. Broadband survey. There was through the UDC a broadband survey how that we can report our speed, our service, everything else. I would like to get that out more to the general public and to you folks in particular. And I don't know how to do it. Maybe send it to Crystal. Okay. Crystal, and you can forward it because I think it's important because we have so many dead zones. We are literally a dead zone.
Is that
So-
the same thing the state just sent?
Yeah, it's New York State sponsored.
Okay, yeah.
hmm
Just I put something on Facebook about that.
Yes, and I put it on the Upper Delaware Network,
Okay.
but I think it needs more publicity. Almost, and I've been told it's very easy to do. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
So since almost all of, okay. That's it. I told you about corridor mapping. That's it.
Yeah, we don't have litter sweep on, probably it'll be in the March agenda. It's
Okay.
not on this one.
Okay,
Usually in
good.
March, we get
All
from
right.
the county. Any questions?
And I just have to say one thing when regarding Peter's presentation. That what has changed, because I was on that council before, what has changed? Lots has changed, the mapping, et cetera, but climate change has changed. I mean, the climate has changed. And when you consider protecting steep slopes, which is what our zoning protects, the river management plan protects, steep slope covered in trees. Works great. That's our resilience in the face of climate change. You take that away and you have a storm like you had at the end of October, which has removed literally forever, maybe Peggy Runaway Road. It's gone. It's not a road anymore. You can't go there anymore. It fell in. And if you drove on that day of that storm between here and Callicoon, you would have seen 97 under 2-3 inches of water. You would have seen water gushing down that hillside. So it's a big deal. Protecting steep slopes, keeping the trees there, tightening up some things about logging and how we do it is incredibly important. And I just wanted to put that out there because you can see that road is closed. It's not there. Right? So we'll pay in the end if we don't take care of our forest.
Thanks, Susan. Brandy with the Energy Committee?
Yep. Okay, so I'll jump right in. Soft plastic recycling in January 22, the TEC collected 546 pounds of soft plastic, making us eligible to receive our 6th Trex outdoor bench. This one's going to go to the horse for operators and for those dropping off food scraps. To date, the TEC has logged more than 9 tons from Tustin residents and businesses to be recycled into Trex decking and outdoor furniture. LED streetlights, the TEC would like to request the board support in asking NYPA, the New York Power Authority, to schedule our Main Street Pendant streetlights installation in the spring. On that day, they could also go through a punch list of other issues with other already installed Cobra Head streetlights. There's a list and they have it. Originally, NYPA wanted to come back only once to Narrowsburg to trench and install the parking lot streetlights on that day as well. But we waited more than 1 year for the completion of our LED streetlights install, and waiting on the parking lot install could take another year. because the parking lot needs a whole day to trench and install poles with overhead streetlights, we'd like to ask NIPA to break it down that way and come back when the board is ready to proceed with that leg of this project. I don't know if you guys want to respond to that now or later, or because,
I can
yeah.
call them and work on that, Brandy.
if you could, Ben, I think using your supervisor power, it's going to work a lot more than my chair of the Energy Committee power. So please, if you could do that as soon as possible. I want the light near the fire department in Lava to be fixed. I want, there's several of them, and people ask repeatedly. We all have the list, and they're not coming. And, I think hanging all the pendant lights on Main Street would be really advantageous this year, to finish the job we've paid for. And so if you could do that as soon as possible and copy me on it so I could see where we're at, that would be awesome.
I can do that.
Excellent. Anyway, the bank building on Main Street, the TEC is on our way towards silver certification as a climate smart community. And we've recommended that the board consider purchasing and installing air source heat pumps in the bank building, lowering Tustin's emissions even more and energy costs significantly. Councilwoman Lutzinger has confirmed the board's support of mini splits, AKA air source heat pumps in the building. And we're really excited about that. We thank you for that decision. And please keep me abreast of that too, so I can at one point get our points from the DEC from that for the climate smart communities. If you don't mind, Jane, that would be great.
Okay.
Tustin horse update. To date, we've processed 1 ton of organic material from the Heron, the Botanist, Blue Fox, and Pete's. We're sorry to say that the Botanist is closed, but we thank them for their support while they were in Narrowsburg. The TEC is now working on the ongoing horse operations plan, which is our last deliverable for the DEC grant. Northeast Organic Farming Association of New York certification of the Tustin horse plant food product has been initiated with a local farm. They're a member and they test our product and then recommends it be certified organic. The local SUNY Green Technology Department is interested in scheduling a visit in the spring. There's significant training potential for students with the horse. As previously reported, an RIT research student professor team is working on a graduate case study about the Tustin horse with the goal of understanding the social, environmental, and financial drivers of a distributed model for food waste processing and energy production. Energy Vision is a New York City-based advisory team whose sole mission is to help communities lower their carbon footprint across the country. They will be featuring Tustin as a U.S. community committed to responsible energy use. They fully support the Tustin horse as a necessary sustainable path for the future and want to highlight our efforts over the past 11 years. They're awesome. They just contacted me this week. Other TEC initiatives. The forsythia in front of the Tustin solar array has been fed the liquid organic plant. I'm going to call it organic plant food because I think it will be certified. From our horse last fall, I applied it with Jennifer. And in the spring, Narrowsburg Beautification wants to work with the TEC to mulch and plant around the forsythia, making it look better and become easier for the highway department's mowing maintenance. This Tustin garden improvement will be submitted to Sullivan Renaissance as well this year. So kind of tying in all these efforts, it's really exciting to do that when possible. I designed new stickers for the town outdoor trash and recycling. I don't know if you can see that, but because I can't see me, but I don't know where I am somewhere. Anyway, these are the recycled bin stickers that I go to these bins every couple of years. I clean them thoroughly and re-adhere. I mean, if you look in those bins, people are not understanding how to separate plastic from trash or glass and plastic and cans. So I just wanted to make it a little clearer. An image goes a long way. It has our logo. It has what they could identify to put in the cans. Of course, it's not a perfect system, but I'm trying. This year, the TEC Facebook page is going to feature inspiring green efforts around the community. And I wanted to say a big thank you to Greg Triggs, our new councilman. for writing all about the TEC's accomplishments in the River Reporter. We much appreciate that under the Narrowsburg News. Thank you, Greg. And thanks,
Thank
Kevin,
you.
for our new members.
Any questions for Brandy? Thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Zoning revision update? That's you.
We continue to meet the first and third Tuesday of the month, here at 2 o'clock until 4. And, the Zoom link is on the website. And you heard Peter refer to a lot of what we're doing. The grants report, I didn't write one, but, you heard about what we've been doing with the UDC grant, which is the zoning update. Sullivan Renaissance Grant is in process. It has to be submitted by the 15th of this month, and it will be. We've had some very nice information there, or feedback. We have a local landscape architect who has donated his time and efforts to give us a free design and estimate of updating Kirk Road to look more scenic and park-like. And we're very happy about that. So just waiting on that. And then that grant will be submitted next week. And the culvert project is really now moving along. We're going to complete the right of ways on Thursday. And then after that, we can go out to bid, et cetera, et cetera. Narrowsburg Water and Sewer Committee, do you want to do that, or you want me to do?
No, you can do that, and then I would just leave
Okay.
the bottom off.
It is technically the Narrowsburg Water and Sewer Committee, but we had our first official meeting on Monday because we meet the first Monday of every month at 8 a.m. here. The committee met, but we pretty much just dealt with water at this point. So I referred to it as the Water Committee. Committee members present were myself, Greg, and Kevin. Also present in the room were Ben, Dave Buns, our Narrowsburg Water and Sewer interim superintendent, Jocelyn Stumpler, who's the water clerk, Crystal, and approximately 7 residents within the water district. The residents present were given an opportunity to be heard. Questions and concerns were related to the new water rates and the classification of the owner's properties. There are several classifications that you can have, either residential or commercial. And, it's a new system, and with any new system, there are glitches in the system. So we're happy to rectify any problems, and we were happy to hear from our property owners. As a result of the discussion and consideration of the presentations, the Water Committee has made the following recommendations. And and so I'll let Ben give the recommendations that the committee, Ben can read the recommendations. That
Yeah, I don't know if I
the committee
necessarily
got
need to read them. It's just, we'll do a motion. The
There's-
committee has moved.
Further down, there's a little chart. Those are the ones that are. active.
Yeah, there's the committee is going to put forth a recommendation to the board for a change of classifications for a few of them.
Yes, there
So
were,
that's what we'll address those out of the ones, and then the others that were not moved forward for recommendation, the water sewer committee can notify.
well, the
notify
Water
them.
Sewer Committee is going to notify them,
Right,
but.
tonight, we're only going to deal
But
with
I
those that'll
think
have a
that a
change,
change so that those that are wondering
Yep.
can be told.
and we'll do that under the old business with the Narrowsburg Water and Sewer Committee recommendations. Or do you want me to go through the list?
I can do it now so that people.
I'm not going to do the motion now. I'll do that in old business.
Yes, the motion later. This is part of the report.
So you want this as part of your report?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying.
We had account number 16660, which is commercial, requesting to go to residential. Account 10 to 100, 200, 1,000. Commercial to residential. We had an account 25, 310. There was requesting from commercial to a no charge vacant parcel. 15, 420, commercial to vacant parcel. 25, 330, requesting from commercial to go to a residential. 15, 340, requested commercial to residential. 15, 410 was requesting commercial to residential. 25, 350, commercial to residential. 15, 430, commercial to residential. 25, 360, commercial to residential. 15, 440, commercial to residential. 25, 370, commercial to residential. 15, 450, commercial to residential. 25, 320, commercial to residential. 900, 00 from commercial to residential. 25, 400 from commercial to residential. And ones that were received either by mail or phone, 35, 700 from commercial to residential. 34, 300 commercial to residential. 25, 400 commercial to residential. 34, 800. No change in that. They retain it residential, and 6,400 residential to residential, so no change. Of those 16,660, the committee recommended going from commercial back to a residential with a justification that the building was occasional use printing and does not have a water hookup to the building. 100, 200 commercial to residential. The recommending a change back to residential as the property owner is living at that residence and not being rented. 25, 310 commercial to a vacant parcel. They're recommending that be charged the vacant of no fee due to the fact that there is nothing on the property at this time. 15, 420 commercial to a vacant. They're making a recommendation and no charge as nothing is on the property at this time. 35, 700 commercial to residential. That one is going to remain open. 25, 400 commercial to residential. They're making a recommendation as it's a single family residence. Those are the recommendations by the committee to the board. Any questions of the committee on that?
Oh, Crystal had this all in order.
It's still good. Move on.
Number 3 in old business, 3.1 to accept the January regular meeting minutes and the February workshop minutes as presented.
Yeah, there was just one change, just the number of the resolution that I brought it to. So accept that with the one change. This is,
I got a motion by Jane to accept with the correction being in 4.8, resolution 29-2022 is actually number 28-2022. I have a second. All in favor? Opposed? Narrowsburg Water and Sewer Committee recommendations. To accept the recommendations as presented by the Narrowsburg Water and Sewer Committee for the change of classifications as previously stated.
yes, that's good.
And just to clarify, there were two, I didn't have it on the other piece, that were the two that were no charge. It's only no charge for water. They'll still continue to
Right,
pay sewer charge.
right.
Yeah, these are just strictly water bills. Does somebody wish to make that motion?
I don't know if we're allowed since we presented it.
Make that motion.
I have a motion from Bruce, a second.
We seconded?
Sure, you can
Sure,
second.
I'll second.
I am going to abstain. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? And the abstention is due to a family member by marriage.
oh. Okay. At least it wasn't because of our work.
You did fine work, thank you. Okay, we will open the floor to public comment. We will start with public comment.
Nope, you have one more thing before public comment.
What'd I miss?
Little Lake Erie Culvert Project.
Turn over. Yes.
Page 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. Surprised Jane didn't bring it up. 3.3, the Little Lake Erie Culvert Project, a motion to amend resolution 31-2021 entitled amend compensation schedule for acquisition of the Little Lake Erie and resolution of 2020 entitled Little Lake Erie Culvert Project Compensation Schedule for adjoining properties. The motion is to approve the amounts of map number 4, parcel number 4, $1,300, map 1, parcel 1 for $5,400, map 2, parcel 2 for $2,600, map 3, parcel 3 for $750, and map 5, parcel 5 for $450.
I move to accept that, or I move to whatever, do that.
I have a motion by Jane,
Second.
second by Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. I will open public comment to the floor and then to the Zoom. Any comment on the floor? Bernie?
On your water bill, yeah, they can property no charge, but they still have to pay for the infrastructure. They should have a charge.
Yeah, that was discussed by the committee and before. Those are ones that don't have anything on the property or a hookup. I understand what you're saying, but that was what was brought up by the last board when they were putting the rates together. And it is understood because properties have the ability to hook into the system, and it also takes up for the number of, and this was brought up in the committee meeting. Those properties also take away from the number of residences that can be served. And I don't think the people understand that is actually counted towards, if we were ever to expand the district, we need to have the water for those numbers, including the vacant lots.
If the vacant lot wants to build a house on it, you gotta supply the
Right.
water.
And that was discussed at the meeting. It just hasn't,
Reapply. and
it
start
just
from scratch.
hasn't been, it hasn't been updated, but that was brought up at the committee meeting. Any other comment from the floor? Yes, Ed?
I have noticed on my daily walks, the culvert project. Where the culvert comes under the railroad tracks, goes out to the Delaware, there's a couple of huge trees that have fallen down there over the years. I could foresee at some point, they're gonna plug up that culvert. Now, the link to that is that the old town pond reservoir up on, off of 97, the road that goes over to Lava. That's starting to come out to the road. So I believe what controls that is a beaver dam. I know when my dad was on the water, he used to go in there and work on the dam to keep lower down so the pond was down low. So I can foresee the way this pond is rising, it's going to come out onto the road. If it ever busts that dam somehow, it wound up coming down through, it would wound up at the culvert. And we got all them trees in there. I think somebody ought to look at.
Which part are you talking about, Ed, with the trees? I'm drawing the culvert project on Main Street here,
Yeah.
and are you talking?
Where it comes in. Where it goes under the tracks,
Okay,
right along track.
okay.
Yeah, there's a few big trees sitting in there. I've looked at them too.
The dam is being replaced.
Yeah, he's talking about lower. This would be
Just
outside of the
beyond
work
that.
area. We can have Don take a look at that and see
Yeah,
if,
I mean, it just looks like something that should be looked at. Like I say, the pond up there too is getting so full that the old town reservoir, that if it let loose up there, it's gonna wind up down here.
We did that a couple of years ago. Thank you. Pardon?
thank you, Ed. Any other comment from the floor? We have any comment from,
Ben, I have a question, I guess, about the zoning process. Is there not a point, okay, so you get all your changes together. You have, the zoning that we have now was done in 2010. And that's the existing zoning as far as, nothing has changed
I can't hear.
officially. Has anything officially changed since the zoning book and map of 2010?
was 2012 is what.
Yeah, there's gonna be changes in it.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
there
the
will
whole,
be
that's
changes.
the whole,
Those changes have never gone before a public hearing. They have never.
they would have to.
Huh?
Yeah, we haven't even introduced the new zoning. This was a workshop.
Okay, so
Yeah, that was just a work session to advise the board if they had any questions. The next process will be the board will work with the consultant if there's any changes. Then after that, the introduction of the law. And once there's an introduction of the law, then you get into the seeker review, you get into the UDC, you get into the 239. Yeah, so that we're not even near
we're not
that.
there yet.
No.
That whole process will unfold like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to ask a question, but don't know how to raise my hand on the computer.
Go ahead, Iris.
All right, Irish, you're up.
I hear you.
So I wanted to know when Peter put the diagrams of some of the changes, it's like a red and white zebra stripe, those new additions. How does one find out where those boundaries are?
That's eerie.
Everything that Peter did tonight was on a draft local law. So that has, just like I had said to Sue, it will come out. We will end up having a public hearing and you'll be able to have all of the information. What you saw tonight was a briefing to the board of proposed changes.
And Iris, I don't think those changes were any different than when you were on the committee. So you might have notes on it.
I do not, I have looked through some of my notes and I do not find that. If anybody has any notes as to what that is, I would really appreciate getting some of that information, please.
Okay.
Brandy.
You just got to unmute her.
Yeah, I did.
Hi,
Okay, you're up. Mary.
I just wondered, it would be so much easier for the public to understand what you're gonna talk about at a meeting if the agenda was published like the Monday before the meeting. I mean, it's really late to get it during the meeting. I have no idea what you're gonna talk about. It would just be nice, and if it needs to be amended during that period from Monday to Tuesday, you certainly could go back and amend, because you're having a workshop meeting the week before. I think you have the skeleton of a meeting, so I'm just requesting that that's possible, because I don't like bothering the clerk every time I need to see the agenda, but it is kind of why I will go to the meeting after my report. So that's it.
Okay. Any other public comment?
I'd like to make a comment, but I can't see any way to do it. This is
Okay,
Star.
Yep, you're up.
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to mention not being able to access some way to ask for a comment. At the beginning of Mr. Manning's presentation, there was a part where they said, well, if anybody have any questions? And I tried to unmute myself and I got a message that the host had muted me and was not allowing participants to unmute themselves. So that I think is a little problematic at some point, but anyway, the comment I
Let
wanted
me address that before you get into your next comment, Star. I made an announcement at the beginning that there was no public comment on Peters because it was a presentation to the board. So that's why everybody was muted and you weren't able to get in. But go ahead with your next one.
Well, okay, but it wasn't just when Mr. Manning was presenting, it was all through the rest of the meeting. Anytime I tried to unmute, I got the same message that if the host wasn't allowing people to unmute themselves. So
Yeah, they're only unmuted during the public comment period.
well, that was not clear to me, but thank you.
Okay.
There was some comments made about the heat pump for the new building at the bottom of the parking lot there. And I was wondering at the same time, I think I've made this comment before, if there wouldn't be a very good opportunity to put in a public bathroom or two at that building so that we could finally have some access for the public right there on the street where it's already on a level area. The handicap parking space is right across the way from that. And it's central to the whole Main Street so that it would be accessible during festivals and high traffic participatory events, that we would finally have something like that on the street.
That will be a consideration.
Question.
Hold on one second, Brendan. Can you mute everybody and just unmute the people? Is like unmute Brendan?
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll do them single so we're not getting the feedback. Brendan, you're all set.
Is it possible to get an advanced copy or for the town to post it on the progress on the local law and the zoning changes? A written copy or a downloadable copy?
Yes, he's looking for to post on the website our draft at this point in time.
Oh, this draft, I can put this draft up.
And Crystal, that's a draft of what?
You're talking about the draft of the zoning, the
The draft,
proposed local law that they are getting ready to introduce?
Well, I believe the local law, the way, if I understand it right, is broader than just the zoning. It includes the zoning and maybe other things. So if the two are the same, then either one would do. And if it's posted on the website, that's great. I didn't see it. If you could just give me a hint.
No,
on
it
where to
hasn't.
look.
It hasn't been posted. It can be posted as a draft, but not.
Sure. That would be very, I think a lot of people would like to see that. I would.
Public record.
Okay.
Yeah, and it
might
things
But just a question, is the local law and the zoning change one and the same exactly? Or are there
Yes.
differences?
No, it's a local law that will deal with the zoning.
Okay,
We're not there yet.
And I have Iris.
Iris,
Yes,
you're up.
I would, no, I would like to have that information as well. What
Yeah, we'll
was
We'll
just.
post it, we'll have
mentioned.
the clerk post it on the website as a draft, because we have not even introduced the law yet.
Draft is good. Thank you.
Any other, you're welcome. Any other public comment? If not, I will close public comment. Okay. 5.1 new business, 93 Main Street. Kevin, I did contact,
Olson?
yes, but unfortunately, because of the way things are, they were many weeks out. He said if things change, that was fine. I did send to the board two options from Bucelli for heat and air conditioning. One came in at 22,670. The other came in at 23,415.
And which one is the splitter?
This heat pump unit is at 23,415, as opposed to the 22,670. The only thing is, and each of them will remove and repair the roof from the old unit.
You have them in your packet. All the board members have both of those. And on there, just below options one, I did talk to the code enforcement officer just to get a little bullet point for you. For why he thought just some input.
So, and the other one was option 2 from Bucelli?
Yes, they're both from Bucelli, because he
Oh,
can
I
do
see.
both of them. My recommendation would be with the split units.
Yeah, I,
It's the more expensive of the two.
but only by a little bit in the long run. It's not even $1,000.
With lower operating costs, correct?
Yeah,
Do we have any information, what's the BTUs of, what are these things throwing off?
I don't have that answer for you. They, what they did was they went in and actually sized the building and sized the units to them.
All right, so he went. and-
Yes, yeah. These are,
These are appropriate to the space.
Yes.
He thinks it can heat the space. Okay,
yeah, that, I didn't have him actually
yeah.
those particular numbers in. I see the one is a 4-ton,
Right.
the non-split unit. I did, or I didn't, Crystal did have code enforcement go over these to make sure that they felt that they were sufficient.
It's a $745 difference.
And the only two things that our code enforcement officer, I believe I hand wrote in on there is that, yeah, that right there, that they would have to get a third party electrical inspection on the units and that any permits, obviously,
Which they already know, but
right.
we would pass it that way, just so, you know, because during the first one, they said it was the town's responsibility to get their own permits. That's not how it goes.
So do you need a motion to accept? or to-
Discussion and emotion.
That split unit's only $745 more, so.
Yeah, that's what
I
Jane
just
was
did
saying.
that, yeah, and it saves in the long run.
The only thing that I have not done and I need to do is to check NYSERDA for any rebates that are available to the town on the split unit because of the energy efficiency of it.
That'd be great.
That, if that is the way that the board wants to go, then I would look into what those would be.
Oh, it's always good to get a rebate, but.
And
we
we
can
did
still,
talk to the accountants about your procurement policy and it falls into the emergency, so
Yes,
it's covered there as well.
but we can still pass a motion that we want to split a unit as our,
we could pass the motion on which one of these two that the board wishes.
okay. And then, yeah, let's do that and then we can give the energy committee
So-
a copy of the motion and they can go
If the-
towards the.
If the board is looking to do the splitter unit, I would make a motion to accept the estimate number 1510 from Baselli Solutions in Holmesdale for the purchase and installation of that unit.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so Randy, if you have that motion, that'll be helpful to you, right? Just shake your
She's
head.
minted,
Okay.
muted.
Yes. I'm very excited
Okay.
about that. By the way, we get like $5,000 if we get certified, so you'll get money in the end, you know. I think it's
cheaper.
it's a great idea to do this. We've had success in the town hall building with it. And it's so energy efficient. It's not a fossil fuel. It's really good. Thank you.
5.2, a motion to appoint Craig Burkle to the Sullivan County Fire Advisory Board to represent the town of Tustin.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
Motion,
I'll second it.
second by Bruce, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We need to put out for lawn mowing bids. I did speak with Glenn Swenson. We hired him last year in order to do the mowing within the township. He is not interested in doing that. However, he did say if the town wanted to hire him, he would do the cemeteries. So if the board wants to do that, then we could set out the lawn mowing bids excluding the cemetery.
I think that we should hire Glenn for the cemetery if that's what he wants. to do.
Yeah, and I'll
He
need
does
to,
a
I'll
great
need to
job.
speak to him regarding a start and stop in an hourly rate. But I would need a motion to bid for lawn mowing, excluding the cemeteries, for the year of 2022,
Okay, I'll move
with the
that.
bids to be opened at the March 8th meeting.
You need a motion to go out to bid for the, I'll make that. So moved.
I have a motion, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ken, when we were doing the gas, that's the price above the daily petroleum.
Yeah,
price.
yeah, usually you bid it
Okay,
and you gotta specify which depot it comes. I mean, you can specify Albany, specify Pennsylvania. They seem to think it's better to use the Pennsylvania number than the New York number.
oh, the way their taxes are.
But it's all, they bid the increment is basically what they do because the price fluctuates every day. Published in the Journal of Commerce, I believe.
April meeting. So I think we would do that, to do an opening in the April meeting, and this would be to allow us to use other than the state bid. So I'd look for a motion to authorize the superintendent of highways to put out to bid for diesel and for unleaded gasoline. For the 2022 year, with the bids to be opened at our April meeting.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye, opposed? 5.5, a motion to authorize the superintendent of highways to bid for sand and stone, with the bids to be opened and awarded on Tuesday, the 12th of April.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, opposed? 5.6, to amend the 2022 compensation schedule to include the cell phone reimbursement for up to $50 per month, eligibility determined by the department heads. This is what we had discussed at the work session. I would make the motion. Second,
Second.
any questions? I knew it was, I heard it.
I know, I just wondered what the up to instead of, I thought we always give.
It was
50.
always 50,
Yeah,
and maybe somebody wishes to be generous, so we'll leave it at up to.
okay. I guess it doesn't
All in
matter.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is town board pursuant to the authority granted by executive order number 11 issued by the governor of the state of New York to grant exemptions on the 2022 assessment roll in accordance with the executive order number 11 from December 26, 2021, with the attached resolution, which I am not going to read.
Yeah, the upshot of it is it just allows those exemptions to renew without them having to come in and file. It just, it's seniors and disabled exemptions, so they don't have to,
So if you've already been exempt, you continue to.
Without having to come in.
you don't have
Right,
to come in.
Right,
That's the whole
only
point.
those that are new.
And it wouldn't prevent others who are now eligible.
No, no, wouldn't stop anybody from applying.
All right, so you want a motion?
I do.
I move that we do the following as listed on page 11, 12, and 13.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye, opposed. 5.8, cell tower Castle Crown consent.
It's
I
this
had
one.
an email, or the clerk had an email from Castle Crown, who manages a cell tower located at our property here in the town of Tustin, reaching out because Verizon will be modifying their equipment on the tower, and per the lease agreement, they need to obtain consent from the landlord, who is us, in order to move forward with the project. Please find the consent letter, drawings, and structural analysis attached. Once you've reviewed, please sign the attached letter and send back to earliest convenience. I need it by February 18th so we can meet our client's deadlines. The scope of work will be adding 3 antennas. You'll be removing 3 RRUs, which are remote radio units, and they will be adding 6 swapping OVPs, which are over voltage protection that mitigates risk due to lightning. I would make a
That's
motion.
nowhere near, no, but that's not by the garage. right?
Yes, yeah.
And that's not within even 500 feet of any resident.
This is already, they already have it on it. This is going 3G to 5G and
They're just changing out antennas that are hung on it and some of the electrical.
putting in new,
But it's nowhere near anybody's residence.
There's one house right at the base of it.
It's there.
It's
They're
been
not
there
changing,
forever.
they're not changing the footprint of the facility.
No, I'm-
They're not changing the tower itself.
a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign Crown Castle
Did you read it?
request for consent.
Yeah, Crystal had it posted on the website with the meeting packet, and I went through it earlier today, and you know, I can't tell you anything about all those diagrams and schematics that are at the end of it. It's a pile of stuff.
Kind of big.
All I took from it is the tower is safe.
But the essence is, yeah, the essence is, they've got the lease is existing, the tower is existing. The provision in the lease is that before they can make a physical change, they have to get the town's consent, which the town, under the contract, the town cannot unreasonably withhold. So what would be the reason for withholding it? They're updating
Right.
the antennas, and hopefully it will improve cell service in the community, right?
Okay, I'll second your motion then.
All in favor? Aye, opposed. 5.9, the ambulance protection agreement. This is the contract for ambulance protection. And in there, under number 2, they will receive the sum of $20,000 per annum from the township. Yep.
Oh, you want a motion?
A motion to accept the agreement for annual protection.
Move that.
A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Tustin Youth Agreement between the town of Tustin and the Youth Commission. And the funding of the Youth Commission in the amount of $10,000.
Right, I'll move that. And by the way, everybody, this has already been budgeted for, so
Yes.
it's not a surprise. I move that.
A second, all in favor? Opposed? Is there any other new business that I've missed?
I don't think so.
If not, we will open up the floor to public comment. Ed?
Well,
Oh, what's that?
regarding the ball field. Playground. There was a situation this summer. There was a young man down there, he had 6 or 8 young boys, probably 12, 14 years old. And he was pitching to them. He was standing behind a shield, and then he would throw the ball. So I went over to him and I said, you know, it's so good to see somebody using this field. Baseball. I said, we used to have 10 little league teams around here. I said, it was just, you know. And so we got talking a little bit. He said to me, what's that over there? I said, that's a community garden. He said, a community garden? He said, that's a hazard. He said, these kids can hit a ball. Well, that's what it is. So I just wanted to. hear it.
We'll get the Little League fence put back up. I'm gonna come out of public comment for a moment, and I do have, I sent this to the board regarding,
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, right.
oh, that was the very beginning. It was there.
okay, I missed it. Regarding Charles Woods Associate Architect, Carl Wassner, regarding 93 Main Street. For pre-design service, basic designs of final design service and permit and construction documents. You got a copy of this?
Yes, I got it
Today.
by email.
Yeah, I sent it out when he got it to me.
I didn't read it. I'm not gonna vote for it.
Grab a copy.
Now that it's, as the board knows, that the inside has been mostly gutted,
93 Main Street
is the bank building.
Wayne Bank.
Is this just an FYI or you want us to vote?
I would
on it?
like to try to at least start, there's a $3,000 retainer. These are maximum costs that are in there. If we're going to start any work, I mean, if we're putting the heating system in, we might as well.
But that was my concern a little bit is, I mean, it's probably obvious to everyone. Or if we do approve this, that they coordinate with themselves, you know what I'm saying?
Correct. And with the building
You
committee,
might put the heating thing in a place where the architect says, oh, I wish it was over, here," you know what I'm saying?
we could start getting people talking.
I don't think the building committee has met on it.
No, we would have to.
No, I don't want to vote on it until the building committee is met.
We'll put this off for a month.
Yep, I do. I don't feel comfortable because I don't,
We can. I just think, you know, we need to do something. We've got a vacant building that we need to do something with.
yes,
And would that mean then, if you were to do that, would the building committee then meet with them? to-
Oh, yeah,
Or they go,
they would, yeah, the town's gonna have to approve anything that's
So the-
done beforehand.
but in order for them to even meet with your committee, we'd have to put that retainer in.
building
No.
committee needs to talk about this building and that building and how it's all gonna mesh, and I don't think that decision has been made, has it?
If you know the question. We own a building on Main Street
Right.
that we've been told we cannot sell or lease because of the way the laws are, and that we bonded public money in order to do that.
It can't, but then I I did call the Association of Towns. They said they would get back to me, and I haven't received their response as to whether we could lease it or not.
Well, there's a process to lease town property. It's not that simple. In fact, before you could lease it, you'd have to be, anything you did like that would be subject to public referendum. Permissive referendum, I should say. Leasing of town property.
The retainer on this is $3,000. If we decide not to utilize or move forward,
That would be okay if we're just approving a retainer now.
well, that's what in here, it does say the retainer is $3,000.
Oh.
If we take no further work,
Then
we're not
that's
paying for
okay.
work
I
that-
did,
would
here
be-
it said 12,000.
Right, this is the fees for each of the things as we moved into.
Okay, so you want, I will.
And
agree
we
with
would get complete drawings for $12,000.
He will do everything in order to put us in there.
And you mentioned Charles Woods and Carl.
that.
Yes,
Carl
because that's,
works for them.
no, Carl works for him. Any other discussion on it? Pros, cons?
I'm pro because I think you need to know what you're getting into professionally. We're buying a heater for something that we don't even know,
Right.
I would rather some of these.
Well, no matter what, the building has to be heated so that the pipes don't freeze again, so that doesn't bother me.
You're so optimistic.
No, we need.
I would
that.
make a motion to engage the services of Charles Hugh Woods Associates as per the agreement that he has put forth.
I'll second.
No,
Questions?
No, aren't we making a motion to
Well-
approve the retainer?
Yeah,
report?
well, yes. But we're not going to pay for these things if we do not get them,
Okay,
correct? Ken?
Right, yeah, you're not gonna.
Yeah.
Something that you don't-
Yeah, we're not paying for something we're not
what
gonna
a
get.
pain in the neck board member I've become. Okay,
It's okay.
All
You're
right.
you're allowed.
Ask questions, Dave.
yeah.
Okay, that is a motion that I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The floor is back open to public comments. Anybody on, nope, you got,
Hold on.
Iris and Mary.
you can tell me which ones you want first.
Star,
Hold on there you go. You're all set, Star.
Okay, I wanted to ask about the item 5.8 cell tower adjustments. And you said something about antennas. Is this the start of implementing 5G in this area?
It's, yes, that they're upgrading the towers.
And with 5G, which is what I was asking the board to look into protecting, is this tower within 500 feet of a residential area, business?
Were you able to listen to the conversation that the attorney advised the board of regarding the tower and the ability to hold up what they're doing?
Yes. From what I understood, what he was saying that the town could only with reasonableness deny access or to deny that work to go forward. I'm not asking about that. I'm not asking about it being halted. I'm asking about if there's anything that can be done, if this is in fact a possible 5G interference issue, then I would like to know what possibly could be done about that. If they put it up, is there any way, once it's up, that you can retroactively protect any housing in the area that might be affected?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for you on that, Star.
Okay, well, I asked that
Technical.
that be looked into, and I'm hoping that the board will do that with alacrity.
I read an article based on your email in IEEE Spectrum, not to show off, but I'm reading the. And it's very inconclusive. I'll send you the article. It's interesting, but you know, they think it's, one hand, these are engineers talking and they're not certain. So it's over our heads.
You have
Well,
more
all
on
I-
there?
All I
Yep,
know,
go ahead, Star.
all I know is I called up AT&T, which is my phone carrier, to ask about the ramifications of this 5G system and would that my area be affected? And the guy's answer was, you most certainly will be affected. So if it's going to go up, whatever that article says about what you can do about it, I would hope that the board would take a look at it. It's apparently Scarsdale, New York was able to pass a local law that protected anyone from this 5G in their township from going up and affecting anybody within 500 feet of those towers. So that's all I was looking for. I know we're not Scarsdale, but if there's anything, this 5G disruption is going to be considerably significant for any older, quote unquote, cell phones or mobile phones or devices. And I just think that we don't know what we're getting into, and I think it should be checked out.
Thank you, Star.
Yep.
Do more on them?
I have Mary Bermudez.
Mary?
Good evening. Thank you very much for all your work you do. I do have a question. As you know, I do sit on the planning board. Was there an option to go ahead, as we always do as the town board? You put out for bid to get bids on getting the work started. Like I know you picked Carl Wassner and I don't know the Charles Woods, right? Was there an option for the board to put out to anybody else, any other architect or whatever for their services to see, instead of retaining the $3,000, maybe there would have been 2,000, 1,000. I'm just really more about penny consciousness. And I was just curious because everything usually goes out for bid and why this was not. Thank you for the, my comment and hopefully the answer. Thank you.
Okay.
You're not required.
Yeah, falls under professional services.
She didn't hear that.
Yes.
Say it.
That fell under professional services. More?
No? Can I move to adjourn?
Only after I read. The ZBA regular meeting will be February 14th at 7:30 PM. The zoning revision update meeting will be Tuesday, February 15th. The planning board public hearing and regular meeting, February 22nd. Zoning revision update committee, Tuesday, March 1st. Water sewer committee, March 7th. Town board workshop, March 1st, and a town board regular meeting, March 8th. A motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Look at this here. So Ron, I did, yeah,
On Wednesday,
Thursday
Thursday, yeah.
at 11.
Right. I
Okay.
couldn't, I have no idea.